Bionicle, each set sold separately. Those are the words that echoed through my head for way too many years. God, I don't even know how long. Clearly the early 2000s, though. Today I'm going to talk about Bionicle. This was a question submitted by the good Mr. D. Cappuccino III, who asked me to talk about the Bionicle toys and my relationship with them. My relationship with a bunch of toys, you know, with some toys. So I was a big Lego guy as a young lad. I remember I had a this massive like plastic tube of like just a million different Lego pieces. And I remember it just, I guess one day in the early 2000s, I must have seen that very first commercial with that overbearing, dramatic British commercial voiceover going, "Bionicle, collect them all, buy them all right now, stop Makuta, collect the masks, each set sold separately." and I guess I was convinced, so, because I'm not like a massive toy collector. I certainly was back in the day. There were certain lines of things that I was pretty obsessed with collecting, and I did complete a few things. I think I've talked about in other episodes how I have a complete collection of like the first 150, no, the first two generations worth of Pokemon as those little 2-inch figures. I had a whole lot of Power Rangers toys, you know, a whole lot of stuff like that, and Bionicle, I have, from what I understand, pretty much with the exception of the masks, I had the entire first collection of Bionicle toys from like the first generation of that collected. Those of you who maybe don't remember that, if you don't know what the hell they were. So Bionicle was Lego saving their ass with producing like a story and this kind of like more imaginative kind of idea, like just something with like an actual like plot and like, you know, like characters to it, as opposed to just here's the Star Wars play set or whatever, you know, just like random pieces and things. It was them trying to create a franchise, an action fantasy franchise, which was really cool. And it had these 6 characters called the Toa, who all had different elemental powers. And everybody knows how much of a boner I have for elemental powers, powered team characters, whatever, you know. There were 6 of them, and they all wore these different masks. All the different characters that lived on the island that they came from wore masks. So the first line was the Toa, which were the 6 warrior characters, and then there were the 6 elders that came from each of their individual like elemental tribes, and then there were also the villagers that lived in each of their tribes, and you could only get those through a McDonald's Happy Meal, and I think that was one where I cheated a little bit, and I think I had to go on eBay to get the rest of them, because I think I tried collecting as many of them as I could, but I had to get the rest of them through like looking on eBay. Somebody collected all 6 of them together, so I did that. But I had all those, and then there was the Rahi, which were like the beasts that lived on the islands and kind of the different enemies that they would have to fight against throughout. And so there were those, and there were a few other ones, I think, too, in that first line. But I collected everything. But also the biggest, most difficult thing about them to collect was the fact that so there were 6 different types of masks that each had a different special power. No, actually more than that, because the elder ones had their own that were like separate. But you had to collect those, and they came in like the 6 different available colors of each Toa. And then they also came in gold and silver versions of them as well, that any of the characters could use at any time, because you could like switch between them. When you would collect one of a different color, then they could use a different one that would like align to their color. So like the blue one would have like the being able to breathe underwater power mask, and then like if you got a red one of those, then the fire Toa could use it. You know, that was the whole kind of rule of it. But you know, they expect you to be able to collect all these like, you know, 100 different masks or whatever, and you know, I tried. I didn't do very well, but I certainly tried. Mike, Lucas, and I think we both like worked very hard to collect a lot of that stuff, and I don't know how well we actually did, but I know that I collected all of the Rahi, and I had pretty much everything I possibly could from that first line of toys. So at the time, I was like really invested into the whole universe of the world and of Bionicle, and I really wanted to like explore it more. And I remember at one point there were two key things that they announced that I was the most excited about, which was the CG animated movie and the video game, the GameCube game. Well, I mean, I think it was for all three systems, but there was a game that was just going to be based off of the story of the first generation of toys, as well as a CGI movie. And I don't know exactly what happened, but I remember a lot of this stuff got delayed for some reason, and some of it never even ultimately came out. To tie myself over, I remember I had a Game Boy Advance game that I think it was literally just called Bionicle, and you played it as a little Matoran villager guy. And although at the time they were called Tohunga, I remember when the villagers were called Tohunga, and then they had to change it to Matoran because they ran into some weird like legal battle or something with that. Like it was like an offensive word, I think. But I had the Game Boy Advance game where you would play as one of the villagers, and it was like the most impossible goddamn game. I had like that and like Rayman Advance and like Mario Advance at the time, so this was like really early on. But I played the shit out of that game just because I was like trying to tie myself over. And then I remember also there was and this is funny because now I look back on it and I try to find some stuff. Now I don't want to speak for sure if what I'm about to talk about was maybe a little bit of an inspiration for like the animation in Tome, because I didn't even do the original TV Tome adventures until like a few years after this in like 2004. But there was a Flash like Bionicle game / cartoon that was on the website, like the Bionicle / Lego website or whatever, and this was 2001 or 2 or whatever, and my internet connection was not exactly the most like cooperative thing in the goddamn world. So it was like near impossible for me to navigate because it was just so like laggy and ridiculous, and it was like, oh god, how do I even So it's kind of lost to the ages. I don't know if it's like out there somewhere. If anybody has access to that and they can still find it, like go for it. The only thing I've been able to find is like the final cutscene where they fight against the evil Makuta bad guy character or whatever, which somebody played that on like YouTube. Somebody like screen captured it or whatever. And it's funny just because the reason I think there might have been some inspiration, because I look at it and some of the animation is like, oh, I feel like this might have rubbed off on me and I learned something from like how this stuff works exactly, and kind of incorporate it into when I eventually learned Flash a few years later, and now I have 10 years of that under my belt. But oh my god, Bionicle was over a decade ago. Holy shit. Yeah, so but I played the game and it was awful, and then apparently the GameCube, and I guess it was like PS2 and Xbox game, eventually came out, and apparently it was the worst thing in the world. So I guess I didn't miss much of that. But then I remember when the CGI movie came out, The Mask of Light, and I did enjoy it. It was cool because I was like, oh cool, it's all the Ocean Group Vancouver voice actors I grew up listening to and stuff. Oh, it's Scott McNeil and all them, and that was cool. But I was a little disappointed because it turned out it was like later in the story, where like after like the first generation of stuff had happened and the Toas had upgraded to like the newer versions themselves, and there was like the Bo Rock or whatever, and it was still enjoyable. It's a pretty fun film. It's got some cool animation to it and everything. But I remember just at the time, I think the first trailer I saw, I don't know if this was maybe like just some of the stuff, the commercials they made, or if this was something else, but I felt like at one point the CGI Bionicle movie was just going to be about the first like part of the story. But no, maybe this was always their intention. I don't know. But the movie was still cool. I never saw the other two that came after it, like the Web of Shadows, and there's some other one I can't remember. That sounds like a Spider-Man movie. I never saw those, so I'm not sure what they were like. But yeah, no, the magic of Bionicle didn't die for quite a while. I remember I think it went all the way up through like maybe 2005, 2006 or so. The biggest thing that I took away from Bionicle, though, as I think is what most people can usually take away with from, Lego franchises, is it was the creativity that inspired. Because I remember when I used to play with the toys, I used to come up with a lot of my own stuff, and I remember Mike Lucas and I in particular, like we kind of like made use of the Bionicle characters in whatever way that we wanted to use them. I remember we like combined pieces from a lot of different versions of things and kind of like crossed them together into our own characters and things. I remember there was one in particular, I guess remember I was keeping this secret for a while, but I guess it's really not that big of a deal. I remember because we hated Xbox at the time, and it was like the bane of our existence because we were Nintendo fanboys. I remember we had like this Xbox virus character that was made up of like all the black and green pieces that we could get from the Toa and the different Bionicle characters and everything. We made like this really creepy, scary looking like parasite kind of thing. That might have been a little bit of a precursor to TTA as well. With that thing, it was kind of cool looking. I think Mike might even still have it somewhere. We talked about it recently. Mike, if you're out there, take a picture of that if you can find it. But yeah, I don't know if I even have any of these anymore. They might be just locked away, like in storage somewhere back home in New York. But yeah, they inspired a lot of creativity, and they went on for so long. And then I think my last like kind of fleeting memory was seeing like a commercial for the later Bionicle stuff, like the way later stuff when I was kind of out of it by that point. I wasn't collecting them anymore. Not because I didn't like them, just because it was a lot of money. And I was like, eh. But I remember seeing a commercial for them, like attacking some character, like in the Sim CGI animation commercial, and playing like move along, or whatever is the song in the background. I'm just like, okay, and I am done. Like, we had a good ride, Bionicle. Thank you. We're done. That's what I kind of try to do sometimes. It's like if I feel like a franchise is kind of going that way, I kind of have a parting of the ways that's in like a little bit more of a positive way of like, all right, I saw this, it was cool, I think I'm done. I'm gonna stop before it gets to a point where I don't like it anymore. So I did. But yeah, I still look back and have fond memories of those. Everybody out there, did you grow up with Bionicles? Did you wish that the Bionicles were in the Lego movie like I was and was disappointed when they were not, outside of an offhanded joke? Let me know in the comments. Did you build any cool shit? Did you have a favorite character or a favorite toy or whatever from the Bionicle line? Did you not grow up with them, and do you wish that you did? Tell me in the comments below. And if you have ideas for future Kirblog topics such as these, leave a comment about that too. Or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr, and all of it at the same time. Except please don't do that. Don't send me your question on every single possible orifice of the social contact on the internet, please. Oh God, because then I won't answer it. Then I'll just ignore you. What a great ending to this Kirblog. You did it. This is the one that everybody was waiting for.